Hey everybody, welcome to our test review for the first test in Sefer Bamidbar of the year. The test will be this coming Tuesday. Let's begin. We're going to start by quickly reading through the psukim, reminding ourselves of what's going on in the psukim, the general plot, and then we'll go back and do our analysis. So Hashem says to Moshe, they're in the Midbar Sinai in the second year from leaving Mitzrayim. B'chodesh harishon lemor, in the first month. You guys have to know that in the Torah, the first month is Chodesh Nisan. The first month is Nisan. By the end of the year, we're going to know all the months. Pasuk bet Vayasu b'nei Yisrael at Pesach b'moado. So Hashem says to Moshe that b'nei Yisrael should do the Korban Pesach in its right time, as opposed to the first year, where we could have thought it was only because they were doing it as a way of celebrating leaving Mitzrayim. Now that they left Mitzrayim already, we might think that they don't have to do it again. So Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, make sure that Bnei Yisrael do the Korban Pesach once again, and every year after that. Okay, moving along. When should you do it? Ba'arba asar yom b'chodesh hazeh, the 14th day of this month. Bein harbaim, in the afternoon. Tasu oto, you should prepare the Korban Pesach moado, again in its right time. Kachol chukatav v'chol mishpatav tasu oto. Based on all its laws and all its instructions, it should be prepared. So now, after Hashem commands Moshe to tell Bnei Yisrael that they should do the Korban Pesach every year, the same way it was done the first time, then Vayidaber Moshe el Bnei Yisrael asot Pesach. Moshe tells Bnei Yisrael to do the Korban Pesach. So Vayasu et Pesach barishon. So they prepare the Korban Pesach at first, Ba'arba asar yom lachodesh, on the 14th of the month, Bein Arbaim, in the afternoon, Bamidbar Sinai, again in the Midbar Sinai, same place, same date as they were told. Kechol asher tzivah Hashem Moshe, kein asu b'nei Yisrael. Whatever Hashem commanded Moshe, so did Bnei Yisrael. Okay, let's stop and quickly recap before we move forward. So again, Hashem tells Bnei Yisrael, not only should you have done the Korban Pesach when you left Mitzrayim, you should be doing it every single year, exactly the same way it was done the first time, at the same date. Again, the first month, 14th day in the afternoon, which is, again, the month of Nisan. Then we continue. There were these men, they were tamei, they were impure because they came in contact with the corpse. They couldn't do the Korban Pesach by Yomahu on that day. They approached Moshe and Aharon by Yomahu on that day. Again, on that day. Interesting, we'll go back to that later. And these men said to him, to Aharon and Moshe, we were tamei from a corpse. Why should we lose out from bringing the Korban Pesach in its right time, b'toch b'nei Yisrael, amongst the people? Moshe says to them, Imdu ve'eshma, stay here and listen, what Hashem is going to command you. So again, they were tamei from a corpse. When you're tamei, you cannot bring a korban. They were upset. They were saying, hey, how come we didn't get an opportunity to bring this korban? So Moshe says, it's a good question. I'll ask Hashem and we'll see what he says. Okay, now let's look back and do a little bit of analysis. The first thing we noticed was the overemphasis on the right time for Korban Pesach. We pointed out that 3 times it says the word, or twice it says the word b'moado, and they did it in its right time, and then again it says they did it in its right time, which of course, when you tell me what the date is, I know that's the right time. Why are you telling me this again? Secondly, there's the repetition of the actual date. It says, Ba'arba asar yom b'chodesh zeh bein harbaim. Hashem commands them to do it. They should repair it on the 14th day of this month in the afternoon. And then when they actually did it, it says again, right? And they Bnei Yisrael prepared the Korban Pesach on the 14th of the month in the afternoon. Why can't you say they did what Hashem did? Why repeat the date again? Why again repeat in its time? B'moado, in its time, right? Bnei Yisrael should prepare it in its proper time. And it says again, where was it again? Here it is again. They did it in its proper time. So why the overemphasis on the specific time of the Korban Pesach? And we pointed out in class that the reason why you keep seeing b'moado on the 14th, right? This repetition b'moado, and again, we had it right here b'moado, right? Mentioning the date and then mentioning the date again on the 14th of the month. We already know when you're supposed to do it. So why are you telling me this again? After you just said again, why repeating the dates? So we pointed out that the whole point of the Korban Pesach is almost to go. We didn't say it's in class, but I like the way it sounds, to go back in time. Not like a real time machine, but the point of the Korban Pesach is to relive what was done earlier. It's not just, hey, let's just do what was done in the past, but by doing the Korban Pesach again, a second year, a third year, fourth year, every single year after that, we are reliving the exodus of Mitzrayim. We're getting that feeling again that we feel great, that we're Hashem's people, that Hashem is saving us. And the way the Psukim tell us this is by emphasizing the time, right? That we're doing it in exactly the right time, the same date that it was that was brought the first time, because we really are supposed to be reliving the original Korban Pesach, and that's the point of the mitzvah, not just to do what we did before, not just to remember, but to actually relive it as if almost we're doing it for the first time again. And we are actually going to see this idea of going back in time or trying to relive the events in the next set of psukim as well. Okay, so now we move on to Hashem's response. So they wanted a chance to bring the Korban Pesach, and what was Hashem's response? If somebody is tamei from a corpse, so Hashem adds, or is too far away, right, for you in all generations, v'asa Pesach laHashem. They can prepare a Korban Pesach for Hashem. So Hashem adds, not only if you missed the Korban Pesach because of being Tameh, right, I agree with you, you should be able to do it again, but also if you missed it because you were too far away, you couldn't make it to Yerushalayim, which is where the Korban Pesach was brought, you couldn't make it in time for Pesach. You were allowed to bring a Korban Pesach when? B'chodesh HaSheni, the second month, you have to know that's Iyar. Barbasar Yom, the same day of the month, the 14th. Bein Arbaim in the afternoon, Ya'asu Ato, you should prepare it. Amatzot Marim Yochlu, you should eat it with matzah and maror, the same way that the original Korban Pesach was brought in matzah and maror. Now here's something interesting that we pointed out. Lo yashiru menu aboker, don't leave any of the Korban Pesach over for the next day. You have to eat it all on that night. The etzem lo yishbru, and don't break any of the bones. You should do all the laws of Korban Pesach. And then it just ends off. We didn't really discuss this in class. The end of the psukim talk about the punishment for someone who does not bring a Korban Pesach in the right time. Now let's do a little bit of analysis. The one major point that we said here tells us, darsheni, that something needs to be explained, is the fact that there are very specific details mentioned about the Korban Pesach here. Hashem finishes the commandment by saying, or Moshe finishes the commandment by telling us, you should treat it like any other Korban Pesach. So if that's true, then that means all the laws of the original Korban Pesach should be done with this Korban Pesach. So then, if that was true, then you don't have to mention any of the specific rules here, because I know every single law that happened with the first Korban Pesach, a regular one, is also done on Pesach Sheni, when you bring the Korban Pesach, because you missed it. Yet, in Pasuk Yud Bet, there are a couple of mitzvot that are mentioned that didn't really have to be mentioned. Lo yashiru menu ad boker, right? Don't leave any till the next day. The etzem lo yishbru bro, and don't break any of the bones. Well, why do you have to mention that? Once you told me that you should do it like all the laws of all the Korban Pesach, like a regular Korban Pesach, so these are two of them also. So why do you have to tell me these two? Darsheni, this is saying explain me. These are mentioned for a specific reason. And when he pointed out, this fits exactly with what we were saying earlier. Why? The first one, lo yashiru mimenu ad boker, again is a focus on the date. Make sure you eat it all on the exact day, right? Stick to that date, because that date is the idea of going back in time. Secondly, the etzim lo yishbru bo, we pointed out, why do you not break the bones of the Korban Pesach? So we read an article that quoted from the Sefer HaChinuch. We read this article in class that told us that breaking the bones is the way that poor people eat, to try to get every little piece a piece of nutrition you can out of the food, because you don't know where your next meal is coming from. We are trying to relive the original exodus from Mitzrayim. We are trying to act like we are the people being freed from Mitzrayim. We are Hashem's special people. We are like kings almost. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't be breaking bones. So again, this also helps us go. I apologize for the messy handwriting. I'm just using my finger here. Okay, this also helps us go back in time. These two mitzvot as well help us relive the original Korban Pesach. Right, lo yashiru mimenu haboker, not leaving any of the meat of the Korban Pesach over to the next day, sticking to that specific date, right, going back in time to that special date, and also the etzem lo yishbru bo, not eating like a poor person eats, because we're trying to remember that even if right now you might be poor, even if right now you might be in a bad situation, we're trying to relive the fact that again that we are like kings leaving Mitzrayim. We're trying to go back in time, and a king would not break the bones. Just to see it on the English side as well. So again, it tells you should treat it like any other Korban Pesach. Yet, if that's true, then why do you have to tell me specifically, don't leave any over and don't break any bones? That's obvious. Once you said you're treating it like any other Korban Pesach, of course those are the rules you have to follow too. So again, just to wrap it up all together, the first unit that we had talked about Korban Pesach. and the idea of doing a Korban Pesach again, because it's teaching us the importance of using mitzvot to relive important moments in life. Again, we talked about the fact that Bnei Israel in the Midbar need these inspirational moments, and one way to live these inspirational moments is to try to go back in time. One way to keep yourself inspired, like when you're in the desert in a place of emptiness without God's miracles, is to try to go back and connect with the inspirational moments of your history. And we do that by bringing a Korban Pesach again. And the Torah teaches us that that's the point of this Korban Pesach, by focusing on the original date, repeating that it has to be on the same date, exactly the same way, and specific laws that helps feel as if we are the ones leaving Mitzrayim again. And now we move on to Unit 2, which is, again, we're still in Perek Tet, or in the 9th Perek, right? We're going to move on, though, to the story of Bnei Israel as they travel. And the first thing we're going to be learning about is, let's do that a little more neatly, Perek Tet, a little better. And the first thing we're going to be learning about is, how did Bnei Israel know exactly where they were supposed to go when they traveled? So let's read through the Psukim first. Ubeyom hakimet hamishkan, on the day that the Mishkan was finally set up, kisa ha'anan et hamishkan, a cloud covered the Mishkan, la'oal ha'idut, making it a tent of testimony, right? It's a testimony to the fact that Hashem was with the Jewish people. Uva'erev, in the afternoon, yihiyeh al mishkan kemare eish ad boker. Sorry, there was a vision of fire over the Mishkan until the morning. So again, we had two signs then over the Mishkan. You had a pillar of a cloud which always rested over the Mishkan, and then at night there was a fire also to light the way so people could see. Kain yihiyeh tamid, this is the way it always was. He'anan yichasenu, the cloud would be over it. Umar eish, and at night there would be a fire. And how would they travel? When the cloud lifted up, like the Lord la'alot, Allah is to go up, to raise up. Me'al mishkan, from over the tent, the Bnei Israel would travel, right? Yis'u, from the word nasa, to travel. Uvim kom asher yishkam she'anan, and in the place that the anan would come down to rest, sham yachanu Bnei Israel, that's where Bnei Israel would set up camp. So that's how Bnei Israel knew how to travel. When the cloud lifted up, they said, okay, we're going to go now, and they would start traveling in the right direction, whatever that direction was. Then the cloud would come back down, and they would say, okay, now it's time to set up camp. Al pi Hashem yis'u b'nei Israel, al pi Hashem yachanu. By the word of Hashem, Bnei Israel would travel, the al pi Hashem yachanu, and by the word of Hashem they would camp. Kol yimei asher yishkon anan al mishkan yachanu. They would camp as long as the cloud rested. Now we're going to point out here, the phrase al pi Hashem occurring not once, but where's the other one? V'al pi Hashem yachanu. So they would travel by the word of Hashem, right? Where is it here? By the word of Hashem, and by the word of Hashem they would travel, and by the word of Hashem they would camp, and as long as the cloud rested over the Mishkan, they would always stay where they were supposed to be. Now, in terms of analysis, besides noticing these al pi Hashems, which we're going to notice more of them later, I've just to point out that if you ended the psukim here, that should be enough. I understand exactly how it worked, that they rested whenever the cloud lifted up, they traveled. Whenever the cloud came down, they set up camp. And as long as the cloud sat there, right over the Mishkan, as long as the cloud rested down over the Mishkan, the entire time they would camp, and that's it. And then we can move on. However, the next set of psukim are going to elaborate on this in a way which seems extra. And we said this is going to be a darsheni point. It seems like the Torah is trying to tell us something. Let's see. Okay, now let's go through these psukim. I'm going to do them quickly. I'm actually going to do them in English to get the facts just down quickly. And when the cloud lingered over the Mishkan for many days, so we had just said that no matter what, as long as the cloud stayed over the Bnei Israel, they camped and listened no matter what God said. No matter how long it took. They always sat and listened to whatever God said. So that's enough. That's enough to get me to understand that. But now the psukim emphasize it. The cloud lingered over the Mishkan for many days. Bnei Israel kept Hashem's instructions. They did not travel. Great. So many days. That's one time period that we're mentioning here. Then, let's continue. There were times that the cloud would stay a number of, not times, but days, I translated it wrong, over the Mishkan. So now it's Yamim Mispar. Before it was many days. Now it's a number. Sorry about that. Oops. Sorry about that. Now it's a a number of days. So we have many days, and we have another over the Mishkan, and by the word of Hashem they would camp, by the word of Hashem they would travel. And there were times the cloud would rest from evening until morning. There's another time period, evening until morning, and raise up in the morning, and then they would travel. Or morning and then night, right? They would get there in the morning, and then they would get there in the morning, the cloud would rest, they would stay there, they would set up camp in the morning, then at night it would travel again. Or 2 days, or a month, or years. If the cloud would linger over the Mishkan and on it, Bnei Yisrael would camp and not travel. When it went up, they would travel. By the word of Hashem, they would camp. By the word of Hashem, they would travel. They kept Hashem's instructions by Hashem's word through Moshe. So as we pointed out, right, all these time periods seem to be unnecessary. Once you told me that no matter what, Bnei Yisrael stayed there and camped, so why is it necessary for you to tell me all these different time periods that Bnei Yisrael listened? We just said Bnei Yisrael listened no matter what. So that's one question. So what we pointed out in class, again, this is a Darshani point, right? This is something that's saying, hey, you got to explain this to me. Why are we doing this? So we pointed out that all of this kind of helps give us the feel of the fact that it made Bnei Yisrael were kind of we'll say unsure, uncertain, and also this feeling of being restless, because it's one thing to know that every single time you rest, you're going to set up camp for a week, and when the week is up, you're going to travel. But here what we're seeing is that there were so many different time periods they sat there and camped, they had no idea when the next time they were going to travel was. Remember the example we gave in class, right? If we had a day of school where even if you knew that the day would end at 5 o'clock, let's say but I told you that the periods were going to be random lengths of time, you'd be seeing class going crazy because you have no clue when class is going to end. Or let's say I told you, well, the day is going to end, but we're not going to tell you exactly how long the day is going to be. It would drive you nuts the entire day knowing that could be class till 9 o'clock. So yes, we could have understood the fact that Bnei Yisrael listened to Hashem no matter what, just from the previous pasuk. But the Torah is now giving us a sense of the fact that it was very difficult for Bnei Yisrael, and they were unsure about how long they'd be camping, and it kind of gave them a feeling of restlessness. So it's to kind of drive that feeling home. So again, the Darshani point would be, why mention all these different time periods if we already know that no matter what Bnei Yisrael would camp, they would stay in camp? And it's to send home this feeling that Bnei Yisrael, they were unsure, and therefore it made them feel kind of restless. On the other hand, we're going to see their faith shown by the next type of analysis. The next major Darshani point was what was known as a milah. Milah mancha. That was a little messy. Let's try to make that a little bit neater. What's known as a milah. Let's write that again. A milah, which means a word, or in our case, phrase. Mancha, which means, I'm not going to translate it literally, but it's a word that repeats itself, or a phrase that repeats itself over and over again to tell us that something is going on here. Again, if a phrase repeats itself, that again says Darshani. This needs to be explained. Why are you saying something over and over again? In this case, we said it's the phrase Al Pi Hashem. Al Pi Hashem Yachanu. Here, let's go back to the red that we were using to circle these parts to make it even. Al Pi Hashem Yachanu. They camped Al Pi Hashem, right? That was again by the word of Hashem. By the word of Hashem, they would travel, right? And by the word of Hashem, they would travel. And then again, near the bottom, Al Pi Hashem Yachanu. Al Pi Hashem Yisa'u. And again, they followed Hashem's instructions, Al Pi Hashem Biyad Moshe. So we have 5 Al Pi Hashems here. Again, another, by the word of Hashem they would camp, by the word of Hashem they would travel, and again, by Hashem's word through Moshe. So again, we have to ask ourselves, and again, we had 2 in the last set of psukim, which gives us a total of 7 times it says that they traveled or camped by the word of Hashem. Of course, we know that. So why are you telling me this? Why are you repeating it over and over again? Just say it once. So as he pointed out, it's to set a balance. This is a show of faith for Bnei Yisrael. Whereas the 7 time periods show that they could have been unsure, they could have been restless, and it could have been difficult for them, they still kept faith, and no matter what, they went Al Pi Hashem, Al Pi Hashem, Al Pi Hashem. So again, Milah Mancha says Darshani. Why are you repeating the phrase Al Pi Hashem, Al Pi Hashem? We know they traveled Al Pi Hashem, they camped Al Pi Hashem. It's because those 7 time periods which told us how unsure, how difficult it was, and it's praising Bnei Yisrael that during all those 7 types of time periods, all those many time periods, they still kept Al Pi Hashem. They camped and they traveled. No matter what Hashem said, they kept faith in Hashem, that no matter what, we're going to do things exactly how Hashem says, and we trust that it's all going to go for the best. And then finally, we get to the specifics about the exact procedure of traveling. So we know now how they knew where to travel, when to set up camp, when they can go again. But how exactly did they travel? This starts with the Chatotzot. We'll read through this quickly. Hashem says to Moshe, Asay lecha, make for yourself shtei chatotzot, two chatotzot, which we call, I translate here as chatotzot because I want everyone to know the word. They're referring to trumpets. Kesef made out of silver, miksha ta'asautam, beaten out of one piece of silver. Va'yulecha, what the purpose should be for you, l'mikra ha'edah, to call the people, call meetings, l'masad ha'machanot. To call gatherings and to get the camps to travel. Again, there's that word masa, like the word nisiyah, which means to travel. Nasa, nun samach ayin is the shoresh. V'taku ubahen, if you blow a tekiah with them, right, that's the shoresh. That's a straight blast, one straight sound. V'noadu elecha kol ha'edah el petach ha'omoed. The entire people will come meet with you at the entrance of the Mishkan. V'bachat yitku, right, yitku, if you blow a tekiah with just one of them. V'noadu elecha anisiyim, the princes, the leaders of each tribe, Rosh Alfei Yisrael, will gather to you. Okay, so that's what you do with the Chatotzot with a, if you blow a tekiah. Two tekiot, everyone gathers. One tekiah, just the nisiyim gather. Then, let's say you blow a teruah, right? A teruah meaning the broken sound. V'nasu, now we're going to travel. Nasu, right? The shvatim that camped on the east of the Mishkan, they v'nasu, they would travel. Okay, so again, u'takahem teruah sheni, when you blow your second teruah, again, v'nasu, then there's the, right? V'nasu hamachanot achonim k'teimana. Those that camped at the south of the Mishkan would travel. Tru'ah, again, yitku l'masehem. You should blow a tru'ah, that sound, l'masehem, for their travel. Again, the word masehem, they're very similar. Again, masa, nas'u, u'lamasa, right, for their traveling. Okay. And again, one more time, when you gather the people, remember, you blow tekiah and not a teruah. Again, titke'u means to blow a tekiah. Tariu is to blow a teruah. Again, this shoresh is there. One more thing. And the sons of Aharon, the priest, they should be the one to sound the chatotzot. This is the rule for all generations. For all generations. So the Kohanim are the one who blew it. So again, just to quickly summarize, while they were traveling in the desert, the chatotzot served two purposes. One, to gather the people, or to gather the Nisim for a meeting, or to get them to travel. The sound tekiah was used for the gathering, and the teruah was used for traveling. Then what happens when they get into Eretz Yisrael? When you get into your land and a war comes, an enemy that provokes you. Again, hareyot, there's the teruah, the shorish for teruah, the reish ayin. You should sound the teruah. And what will happen? You will be remembered before Hashem your God, and you will be saved from your enemies. V'nizkartem, there's zachar, zocher, to remember, right? You'll be remembered before Hashem, and nishatem oivechem, you'll be saved from your enemies. And then when do you blow a tekiah when you get into Eretz Yisrael? That's on holidays. Uv'yom simchatchem, on days of joy, uv'moadechem, and on your holidays, uv'rosh chadshechem, and Rosh Chodesh, u'tekatem, you should sound the chatotzot, in this case it's the tekiah, right? Taf, kuf, ayin, tekiah, al lotechem, on the korbanot that are brought in those days, right? It's called, we had the word la'alot, to go up, because the korban ola is the one where the smoke goes straight up, everything gets burnt straight up to Hashem. The other types of korbanot, and should be for you as a memory, lifnei Hashem Elokechem, before Hashem, ani Hashem Elokechem, I am Hashem your God. So again, when you get into Eretz Yisrael, there are going to be two purposes for the chatotzot. One of them is to daven as an act of tefillah to Hashem, blow in a time of war for Hashem should save you, and the tekiah is meant as again a time in times of happiness. Use a tekiah on Rosh Chodesh and on holidays when you bring the korbanot. Okay, so let's do a little bit of analysis, and with that we'll conclude. We did two things here. We talked about the symbolism of the chatotzot and the sound the chatotzot made. And we also talked about we talked a little bit about the focus on Moshe Rabbeinu. So we'll start with the symbolism. Let's move this over. So I can just finish writing the word symbolism. Space. Okay, so we'll start with the symbolism. Symbolism, as we talked about, is something either visual or an object, something visual or physical, or even auditory, something you hear or you smell, something that represents an object or something visual that represents an idea. Like we pointed out, someone's face turning red or steam coming out of their ears represents the idea of anger. The sun might represent, happiness, or the night might represent something that, nervousness or bad things happening. The color gray represents one thing as opposed to, depression or sadness, and the color orange or bright yellow or pink might represent happiness and cheer. So there's a bunch of symbolism in our psukim, and again, when the Torah uses specific items and specific materials and different sounds, you might ask yourself, is there a purpose to that? Do they symbolize anything? As we point out, we see that was true. The first thing we pointed out was the idea of the chatzotzrot representing royalty. Besides the fact that chatzotzrot themselves, trumpets, are something used to herald a king, they're made out of silver. So we have the chatzotzrot, we have the fact that they are chatzotzrot in the first place, the fact that they're made out of silver, which is obviously an expensive material. And then there's the fact also, the fact that they are made out of one piece. And as we pointed out, beaten out of one piece of silver, right, miksha ta'asaotam, that's also a higher quality of material. And that obviously makes sense in our case, because again, the idea of royalty fits with what we have been saying earlier. How Bnei Yisrael, when the Korban Pesach is trying to help us remember the fact that we are royalty, and Bnei Yisrael is in a good place right now, and we are on our way into Eretz Yisrael, or it seems that way. Bnei Yisrael is feeling good. We also pointed out the fact that that Moshe Rabbeinu is now the leader, and Bnei Yisrael are focusing a lot more on Moshe Rabbeinu as opposed to Hashem now. And by focusing on Moshe Rabbeinu instead of Hashem, so one of the things that's important is the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu looks like royalty and feels like royalty. He has these fancy trumpets to accompany him and to get the people to travel, because people need to look at their leader and say, hey, that's somebody that looks important, that somebody looks significant, that's somebody that I want to follow, that I want to listen to and I want to feel inspired by. So all of this stuff here, or the chatzotzrot, the silver being beaten out of one piece, that all represents royalty, treating Moshe Rabbeinu as almost Bnei Yisrael's king, because they need to look to him as an important leader. What we also pointed out there, you need to know this too, is the fact that the emphasis on Moshe there, aseh lacha, make for yourself these trumpets. And it says, v'hayu lacha limikra, they should be for you. They will be for you to gather the people. What do you mean for you? Just to gather the people. What do you mean make this chatzor for you? You're just making the chatzotzrot. And the idea being that the chatzotzrot are specifically for Moshe Rabbeinu, because again, the royalty that we're talking about here is basically Moshe as king. Moshe Rabbeinu is basically king for Bnei Yisrael. And finally, I think this is it. We saw the symbolism not of the... let's do this again. Let's make myself a little more space here again. We saw the symbolism not of the actual chatzotzrot, what they look like, the physical chatzotzrot, but of the sounds. There are two sounds here when it comes to the chatzotzrot. There's the tru'ah and the tkiyah. And as we pointed out, they are blown for separate things. And what they are blown for is actually, the sound is symbolic of what they are blown for. So, for example, let's see if we can get this right here. So the truah, the tkiyah, v'taku bahem. What was the tkiyah used for? V'noadu elecha kol ha'edah. It was just a meeting. Similarly, when they got into Eretz Yisrael, what was the tkiyah for? B'yom simchatchem. Okay, on a day of holidays, u'moadechem. Then utikatem. That's when the tkiyah was blown. So again, when you sound the tkiyah was to gather the people. Okay, happy times, people gathering together, days of joy, holidays, Rosh Chodesh. You sound the chatzotzrot, again in this case is a tkiyah. And those are kind of, the tkiyah is a straight sound. Straight represents everything's going fine, the people are gathering together, we're in a good place. On the other hand, the truah is like an alarming sound. So it would make sense that when they were traveling, the truah was v'nasu hamachano. The truah, if you sound the truah, the tribes were going to be traveling. And when you blow the second truah, the camps would also, right, the second camp would travel. So the truah was meant for traveling. And also, obviously, when it comes to Eretz Yisrael, if a war comes to your land, then what do? You sound the truah. because the symbolism here is that a Tekiah represents everything going fine, happiness, and the Teruah represents an alarm, things that are difficult, struggle, scary, makes things that make you nervous. So that's what war is. That's what traveling is. That's why you sound an alarm. But when it comes to other things, just gathering together or holidays, you have a straight sound to represent everything going fine. That is also another example of symbolism. We have again the Tekiah on one hand and the Teruah on the other hand. I know it's messy, I apologize. Again, we explained it. The Teruah on the other hand, each sound representing a different type of feeling, and therefore goes with a different activity.